game number 5 of the Wooftada Clinic tournament. And as we get ready here to get started, our teams take the line. Looks like we have number 702, Nebula, up against number 11, Chuck of All Trades. And they're off. Chuck taking the outside, Nebula going straight up the middle, both fighting for position as they struggle to get past. Some great offense going on here. Both teams pushing, and Chuck of All Trades makes it through as your lead jammer. Nebula still pushing against the pack. Chuck approaches the back, and there goes Nebula. Chuck goes down, almost takes a ref with her. Nebula coming around. And Chuck of All Trades calls it off, ending the first jam of the game. Coming up, it looks like we have Serial Killer for the Bargain Hunters. Up against Beaver Cleaver for the Hot Items. Everybody takes the line as we get ready to start the second jam of this game. And they're off with Serial Killer pushing quickly to the front. Beaver held up in the back. Lead jammer is number 32, Beaver Cleaver. And a track cut is called on green 2-0, Mariah Scary. Serial Killer coming around, still trying to make it through the pack. And there's Beaver pushing up against Coach Alicia. Serial Killer looking to make a panty pass as Beaver comes up, takes a fall, but is able to keep going, making her second pass. Serial Killer still stuck in the back behind Mac Attack. And here comes Beaver. Coming up, hitting that big wall. Remember, the Bargain Hunters are down a player, but it looks like they're coming back in. There's Jawbreaker Jose with some good O, trying to help Beaver out. All right, it looks like we've got Whitlash coming out as the lead jammer, followed quickly on her heels by Hemlock for the hot items. Whitlash comes around, makes a quick pass, but so does Hemlock. Whitlash makes the decision to call it off before any more points can be scored. Looks like we've got number 39, Youch from the hot items up against 00 Vicious for the bargain hunters. And here they come. Vicious taking the quick inside line to push up against, as she's getting some offense from number 13, Babs. Youch still struggling at the back of the pack, trying to push through as Vicious gets recycled as well. And there goes Youch out in front. She is your lead jammer with Vicious. Almost pulling a track cut there, but managed to get off in time. Here comes Youch up at the front. Pushing through as Vicious looks to do a panty pass. Doing some bridging here as the pack gets pretty spread out. Vicious trying to push through, Babs trying to help her. Still no traction on the bargain hunter side as Youch gets caught in her own tripod. There's Jawbreaker Jose with a great assist. And Youch is out again to score some more points. Vicious still struggling at the back, and we have a panty pass. The green pivot now has the panty. She will become jammer. And the jam is called off. Up next, we have number 10, Mac Attack for the hot items. And it looks like number 702, Nebula again for the bargain hunters. Mac gets through quickly. And they're turning around that first corner. She's heading up the back while Mac again through the pack with ease. Nebula having trouble in the pack. Looks like they've taken off their cover, getting ready to maybe do a panty pass. As Mac gets slapped down, but is back up, struggling to get past Reckless Rose, and a great assist there by number 3, Jones, as Mac gets through the pack yet again. We have a panty pass, and Reckless Rose now is the jammer for the bargain hunters. As Mac comes around again, does a pretty spin move and calls it off. And we have Mariah Scary for a fast lead out the front. As it looks like maybe Ricky Bobby has the star for the hot items and is trying to get through. They've taken the star off, but Mariah Scary makes it through again, scoring quick 4 points. Looks like Ricky Bobby might be looking for an assist here, and there is a panty pass. Number 16, Paraclete, called on a stop block, getting off for a penalty. As Mariah goes down and calls it off. We've got number 187, Serial Killer with the Bargain Hunters. Up against 507, Ada with the hot items. Ada struggling in the back, goes down on one knee, pops back up. And Serial Killer gets called on a penalty, which means power jam for the hot items. And Ada, as Jawbreaker Jose comes in for a quick assist, and Ada is able to get out and get lead. Here comes Ada around the back, looking for some assistance from her teammates, but she gets caught up front. Doing a good job pushing, and there's Jawbreaker Jose again with an assist. Serial Killer, meanwhile, back on the track, goes down but comes back up, looking to make her first pass, and there they go, coming around the corner on their first pass. But Ada calls it off before any points can be scored. We've got number 702, Nebula, up against 331, Hemlocked. Quick call for an official review. Little bit of confusion on the track. It can get confusing sometimes with the double whistles from each track. Don't always know which one's which. And here we go again with Hemlocked and Beaver Cleaver. Hemlocked out for a quick lead. Sorry, that's Nebula. Nebula with the Bargain Hunters out for a quick lead. Hemlocked still lost in the pack. Looking to make a panty pass as Nebula pushes in the front. And we have a panty pass to number 13, Trash. But Nebula calls it before any points can be scored. We have a timeout called as some official reviews are looked at. And on the line, we have number 40, Whitlash with the Bargain Hunters, going up against number 39, Meowch for the Hot Items. And the jam is on with Meowch making quick work, but here from behind comes Whitlash, and Meowch is out first, taking lead jammer. Whitlash getting pulled off to the side, colliding with the ref. Meowch coming up fast with Whitlash right on her tail. Coming up against Mac Attack and Jawbreaker Jose. As Meowch makes another pass, scoring some more points. Whitlash still has to get through. Meowch coming up fast. Cuts through with ease, and she's off to score 4 more points. Whitlash in the back of the pack, really struggling here with this offense, with this defense of the hot items. And Meowch goes through again. Whitlash trying some spin moves, but gets knocked to the middle and recycled by Mac Attack. Meowch coming up. No pack is called, and Meowch is allowed through. And finally, Whitlash gets through for her first scoring pass. Whitlash right on Meowch's tail. Will Meowch call it, or will she keep going? Looks like she's gonna hit it and quit it. So she scored the points and then was able to call it off before before Whitlash was able to get any points. We've got number 11, Chuck of All Trades, going up against Serial Killer, number 187. Chuck getting caught on the inside, but they're off. Oh, and who is lead? It is Chuck, but Serial Killer right beside her. So Chuck calls it off. No points scored in this round. Coming up, we have Nebula up against looks like maybe Catastrophe. Catastrophe gets recycled back as Nebula pushes up the front. Nebula pushing front, Catastrophe pushing back. No one's made it through yet. Some excellent defense on both sides. There's number 26 trying to provide some offense, and Nebula makes it through to be your lead jammer. And here comes Catastrophe on her scoring pass. Nebula coming up from the back. Nebula gets a few points and then calls it off before any more can be scored. Now we have Hemlocked against Serial Killer. Ooh! Mariah Scary getting knocked down hard with Hemlocked. Serial Killer hitting up against Jawbreaker Jose. Hemlocked getting recycled again. Serial Killer hitting a hard wall. All 4 blockers are there with her as she gets recycled back again. And Hemlock's getting knocked back. We have yet to have a lead jammer in this jam. Both jammers still struggling to get through the pack. Hemlock's in the back. Serial Killer getting recycled again. As Coach Alicia does a good job of pushing Hemlock out and recycling her again. Serial Killer up front now, trying to push through. Hemlock at the back. And Mariah Scary takes the cap. But she also gets pushed back. As Hemlock makes it through for lead jammer, and we have a track cut called on Mariah Scary, which means Power Jam Orange. Power Jam for the hot items as Hemlock gets knocked down, but with some assistance from Jawbreaker Jose is able to go through, score some points, head around again. And here comes Hemlock up the back, through the middle, facing Serial Killer up front, who does a good job of blocking her. And the jam is called. We have a new jammer on the hot items, Kraken Apocalyptica. Going up against Mariah Scary, who is still in the box, which means Power Jam Orange. So we've got some assistance from Mac Attack and Kraken. Almost able to make it through, but not quite. Kraken pushing up front. And they make it out to be your lead jammers. Mariah Scary is back on the track. Penalty called against Annie Spanko. She's headed for the box as Mariah tries to get by. Here comes Kraken again. Getting held up front. But pushing, and she makes it through. Mariah in the back trying to get through. Gets pushed out by Mac Attack. And recycled all the way back. Here comes Kraken up front. Mariah coming up against the back wall. Mac Attack pushes her out on the inside this time. Kraken still struggling up front to try and push through to get some more points. We now have a green blocker in the box as Kraken calls it off. Looks like we've got number 702, Nebula, up against Ada, 507 from the hot items. Ada up front pushing while Nebula pushes at the back. Ada gets recycled while Nebula still pushing. Ada's out again, getting recycled again. Nebula pushing, but making no traction against this tripod up front. The hot items. Getting some assistance from a teammate. But the hot items are able to hold Nebula a little longer. Number 13, Trash, doing a fantastic job of holding Nebula. This 2-wall up front, holding him as finally Ada breaks through and is called as lead jammer. Nebula passes the panty. Ada comes through again, gets a hard hit. And calls it off before Ripper and Half can score any points. We've got number 187, Serial Killer, going up against number 39, Meowch. Serial Killer caught in the back against the 3-wall as Meowch gets hit out up front and recycled. There goes Meowch back to the back. Serial Killer still trying to push through the center. A little bit of a pile up here as Meowch goes down. And Serial Killer up against 2 up front. Jawbreaker Jose and Jones doing a great job of holding her back. And there goes Meowch, lead jammer, number 39 for the hot items. As Serial Killer passes the panty to Rose, who takes it and gets caught. Meowch coming up behind the pack. But Meowch gets called on a penalty, which means Power Jam green. So Rose, still fighting to get through, has yet to make her first pass. Fighting, fighting, fighting. Calling for some assistance from her teammates as her teammates come up. But Rose gets recycled. Meanwhile, Meowch is standing in the penalty box, getting ready to come back in, and Rose has yet to get out of the pack. Hard hit, bringing down Rose as Meowch goes through, scores some more points. And Rose gets called on a penalty, which means Power Jam orange. So the next jam will start as a Power Jam. Looks like we've got Mac Attack jamming. So Mac Attack starts with the Power Jam as Rose is in the box for the Bargain Hunters. And the jam is on. Mac is pushing. Gets pushed out and recycled. Bargain Hunter's trying hard to hold her back. But there goes Mac, lead jammer for the hot items. Rose is standing in the penalty box. But remember, she was originally the pivot. And the pivot no longer in play as the green pivot has been sent to the box. Max makes it around again for another scoring pass. Rose is through. Here comes Mac up the back. Around the outside, gets pushed out, calls it off before Rose can score any points. We have 101 Gadget jamming for the Bargain Hunters against 331 Hemlocked for the hot items. Both jammers having some trouble, but Hemlocked makes it through clean for your lead jammer. Gadget gets some assistance in the form of a push, but doesn't get very far, unfortunately, as Hemlocked makes it through again, scoring another 4 points. Gadget struggling to get through as Trash provides some good defense here. Hemlocked getting through again, but gets stopped by Whiplash and swallowed up by the green team. On the track, we have number 11, Chuck of All Trades, up against 702. Nebula. Chuck getting caught in the back as Nebula pushes forward, up front. Chuck pushing in the back as Nebula gets recycled by number 3, Jones. And Chuck gets recycled. And Nebula is through for lead jammer. Chuck goes down. Nebula coming through. Currently being held up front by this 3-wall as Chuck struggles in the back to get out of the pack. There is one orange blocker in the box. So the 3-wall is all that's on the track right now, holding Nebula. Chuck left to her own in the back as they try and push through. Nebula getting stuck and recycled, calls it off. And we are at halftime. As we count down here for this toward the second half of this exciting bout, I'd like to thank some of our sponsors. We have Modern Skate, the Michigan's original skate shop. We have the Next Level Skate Shop, Magic Hat Tattoo, Tamboy Training and Recovery, Happy, and Spicy Design. And if you haven't checked out our food vendors, Mariah's Food Truck and Crystal's Kitchen, I recommend that you give them a try as well. Back on the track with the hot items, but the jamming for the first time is Jawbreaker Jose against Vicious for the Bargain Hunters. Jawbreaker Jose getting held up in the back as Vicious comes up the front. Jawbreaker Jose makes it through on the outside. Coming around for your lead jammer. Vicious still stuck in the pack. Pushing against that three wall. Mac Attack taking lead there. Here's Jawbreaker Jose. Oh, almost gets pushed out, but holds her balance and comes around for another scoring pass. Vicious, meanwhile, up against Mac Attack in the front. Looking for some help from friends as Jawbreaker Jose makes an easy pass. Vicious hands the panty off. It now belongs to Ripper in Half, who is your jammer. But Jawbreaker Jose calls it off before Ripper can make any points. This time around, we have Ada for the hot items. Up against Whitlash for the Bargain Hunters. Whitlash getting recycled back to the back. Does some quick moves, getting through, and takes lead jammer. Meanwhile, Ricky Bobby helping Ada out, who then gets recycled. As Whitlash makes a quick pass, scoring 4 points for her team. Ada passes the panty to Ricky Bobby, who is now the jammer for the hot items. Whitlash coming through, makes a quick 4 points and calls it off before Ricky Bobby has a chance to score. For the hot items, we have Meowch up against Nebula. Meowch in the back, pushing, knocking people over. Down goes quite a few people as Meowch makes it through to score for her scoring pass. Nebula, meanwhile, took off the star, but puts it back on as she made it through. Meowch goes through and calls it off. But not before Nebula scores some points. Now we have number 187, Serial Killer, up against number 922, Jawbreaker Jose. Little jammer on jammer action going on here. As Jawbreaker Jose hits the back wall, gets past it, does a quick shirt whip. Green is lead. Serial Killer is lead, even though Jawbreaker Jose is in the front. Jawbreaker Jose now behind as Serial Killer comes up. Jawbreaker Jose coming through, makes the scoring pass. And it is now a power jam for Jawbreaker Jose as Serial Killer is sitting in the penalty box. Power jam. She gets some offensive help, a nice t-shirt whip, and she's around for the next scoring pass. Calling for some offense. Jawbreaker takes a whip. Jawbreaker likes those t-shirt whips. Serial Killer back in the track. Gets through her scoring pass. Jawbreaker gets through again. Taking her time as Serial Killer approaches the back of the pack. Serial Killer getting through, scoring some points for the Bargain Hunters. As Jawbreaker Jose calls for some offense. Weaves her way through, comes out in front. Serial Killer in the back. Try to make some more points. And that is the jam, which went for a full 2 minutes. Back on the line, we have number 20, Mariah Scary for the Bargain Hunters, and number 331, Hemlocked for the Hot Items. And they're off. Mariah Scary making a quick pass up the outside edge, goes down, but she's back up. One Mac attack in the way, and he manages to stop her. And Hemlocked gets through on the inside to take your lead jammer as Mac and Ricky Bobby are stopping Mariah, who has a penalty and is headed to the box, which means Hemlocked has a power jam. Calling for some offense from her teammates. As she goes around on the inside and makes it through. Some nice offense by the Hot Items as Hemlocked goes around for her next scoring pass. Mariah Scary, meanwhile, standing in the box. And Mariah Scary comes back in as Hemlocked is dealing with the blockers up front. Ricky Bobby is holding on to Ginger. Gadget. And the jam is called. We've got number 702, Nebula, up against Catastrophe, 707 of the Hot Items. It's the battle of the 7 O's. Some jammer on jammer action there as both jammers get into the pushing game. Catastrophe comes out front, but Coach Alicia there ready to stop her, and she hits her out and recycles her. And Catastrophe called on a cut, which means Power Jam for Nebula. Power Jam for Nebula. Nebula coming up. Her teammate providing some good offense as she goes down on her knees, but is back up again fast. There's Coach Alicia providing some offense. Holding her back. And another penalty called on an orange member. Means there's only 2 orange blockers left on the track. But Catastrophe coming back on for the orange jammer. Nebula getting through, gets knocked down, gets back up. Catastrophe getting stuck at the back there. Green pivot gets called on a directional penalty and heads to the box as one of the orange blockers comes back in. Catastrophe, meanwhile, still looking to make her first pass. Gets pushed out and recycled again. And here comes Nebula up ready to push through. As Catastrophe passes the panty to Ada. The jam is called before Ada can score any points. Now we have number 13, Trash, up against number 187, Serial Killer. Serial Killer pushing past the pack, comes up front, hits up against Jawbreaker Jose, as Trash makes it around the outside. Jawbreaker Jose staying up front, and here comes Jones to help her. But the no pack is called. Trash tries an apex jump, doesn't quite make it. There goes Serial Killer up against Jawbreaker Jose again. Gets knocked out as Trash makes another pass. Serial Killer in the back, Trash up around the outside, but gets called on a penalty, which means Power Jam green. Serial Killer now has a Power Jam if she can take advantage of it. Looks like Serial Killer might consider passing the panty here if they can't get through. But they get through. Serial Killer, not your lead jammer, which means this jam will come to its natural conclusion in approximately 36 seconds. Serial Killer coming up. Gets recycled and pushed back. Trash getting pushed out. Knocked around. Serial Killer getting pushed to the inside. Recycled as Trash comes around for a pass, scoring pass. Serial Killer has the cover off again, maybe looking to make a pass. As the jam comes to its natural conclusion, Serial Killer is unable to score any more points. On the line for Bargain Hunters, we have number 40, Whitlash, against number 32, Beaver Cleaver for the hot items. Whitlash making quick work of the front, pushing through, but Mac provides some hard defense. It's Ricky, Bobby, and Mac up front providing some defense. Whitlash makes it through with a pretty spin move, and she is your lead jammer. Beaver Cleaver still in the back, trying to make it through. Whitlash pounding up against some of her own players. As Beaver Cleaver makes it through with Whitlash right behind her. We have 2 blockers in the box for green, making it more difficult for them to keep Beaver Cleaver back, but they're doing a pretty good job of it here. Mariah Scary pushing. Oh. And Whitlash does a pretty spin move and stays on the track. And then calls it off before Beaver Cleaver can score any more points. And on the track, we have number 39 versus number 99. Meowch coming out first with lead jammer, as Ripper and Half still struggling to get past the pack. Meowch takes a hard tumble. Okay, back on the line, we have number 702, Nebula, up against number 331, Hemlocked. Nebula immediately up to the front, pushing her way through, as Hemlocked pushes on the back. Both teams providing some excellent defense, but it is Nebula who almost makes it through and is called lead jammer. Hemlocked has taken the cover off. We'll see if she passes it or not. Meanwhile, Nebula makes it through again and is your lead jammer. And there goes Hemlocked. She held on to the cover. She made it through. She is still the jammer. Nebula pushing up against the pack, calls it off before Hemlocked can score any points. On the line, we have Serial Killer for the Bargain Hunters up against Chuck of All Trades for the Hot Items. Jam is on, and Chuck and Serial Killer begin their race for lead. Chuck goes down. And again, getting recycled, while Serial Killer gets pushed to the outside and is recycled as well. Serial Killer getting held up at the front, Chuck getting held up at the back. Neither of these jammers has and down goes Chuck again, although it looks like Chuck actually has lead jammer and could therefore call it off at any time. There goes Serial Killer through the pack, but Chuck calls it off before anybody can score any points. We've got 00 Vicious for the Bargain Hunters up against 32 Beaver Cleaver for the Hot Items. Vicious taking a stance in the back as Beaver Cleaver goes straight up through the front. Vicious pounding against the back, trying to get her way through. As Ricky Bobby goes down, giving a teammate a chance to get caught up. So Vicious is getting recycled. Beaver Cleaver has the cover off. Might consider passing it, but her pivot, Ricky Bobby, is in the back. So Beaver Cleaver holds on to it and gets lead, not lead jammer. Pardon me. Lead jammer is, in fact, Vicious, who calls it before Beaver can score any points. All right, number 702, Nebula, up against Meowch, number 39 for the Hot Items. Meowch gets a quick lead, but gets recycled back behind her, the wall. Almost makes it through, but chooses to go back wisely. and is taken down by number 16, Paraclete. Mouch up front. Gets knocked down again. But gets the okay and is lead jammer. Mariah Scary, meanwhile, has the star now for your bargain hunters. And she gets called on a penalty, which means Power Jam Orange. Power Jam Orange. Mouch is told to call it with the green jammer still in the box, which means number 8, Kraken Elliptica, pardon me, will start with a power jam. And beautiful offense by the Hot Items as Kraken Apocalyptica makes it through the pack easily, coming around for her first scoring pass, while Mariah Scary still sits in the box. Another round of offense, and Kraken is through again without problem. Calls it off with the green jammer standing, but not yet released from the box, which means the next jam will also be a power jam for the orange team, Hot Items. This time, it will be number 331, Hemlock, who starts with a power jam. As Mariah Scary, standing, gets ready to be released from the box. And there goes Hemlock, almost makes it up, but Mariah Scary comes up the inside while everybody isn't even looking and gets lead jammer. This time around, the Hot Items are ready for her. So they hold on to her. Hemlock's getting recycled to the back. Chuck of all trades holding Mariah. Hemlock's getting through. Hemlock has the cover off, which means they can't score any points. As Mariah Scary comes up the back, we've got some bridging going on. And Mariah gets up the inside. Hemlock gets some assistance, but not quite enough. And Mariah calls it off. We've got Nebula up against Mac Attack for the Hot Items. Mac in the back trying to get through while Nebula pushes up front. And there goes Mac to get your lead jammer. Nebula takes off the cover, looking to pass it. May or may not be able to, however, depending on track cut called on the orange pivot as she goes off to the penalty box. And the jam is called. So the orange pivot is in the box. As Jawbreaker Jose gets on the line and gets ready to try and score some points for hot items, and the Bargain Hunters take a timeout. Jawbreaker Jose for the hot items, taking on Ripper in Half for the Bargain Hunters. Jawbreaker doing an amazing job of keeping her balance on the edge there. But it's Ripper in Half who gets through to be lead jammer. Jawbreaker gets through as well, coming around fast. And Ripper calls it. But not before Jawbreaker manages to score a point. On the line, we have number 40, Whitlash, against number 11, Chuck of All Trades. Chuck does a quick juke, comes up on the in, almost gets pushed out, while Whitlash is through in the front to be your lead jammer, but Chuck close behind. Meanwhile, 2 green blockers get called on penalties. So Whitlash is struggling with the orange blockers, as Chuck of All Trades makes it past easily. Whitlash gets called on a penalty, which means Power Jam Orange. Power Jam Orange. Chuck of All Trades has a Power Jam, and there are still 2 green blockers. Make that 1 green blocker. Make that no more green blockers in the penalty box. Just waiting on Whitlash to get out of the penalty box, and we'll have a full complement on the track. Meanwhile, Chuck of All Trades comes around for another scoring pass. Pushing through, trying to make a way through as Whitlash comes back on the track. Hits the 3 wall and tries to push her way through. Chuck gets recycled all the way back. And because Whitlash was lead but got a penalty, this jam will come to its natural conclusion in approximately 7 seconds. As Chuck struggles to get a few more points for her team, Whitlash pushes through and the jam is over. Is on the track for the hot items, along with Nebula for the Bargain Hunters. But it is Mac who makes it through, not lead jammer, however. which means Nebula is your lead jammer. Track cut called on Mac Attack, which means Power Jam green. Power Jam green. Nebula makes it through easily to score some points for her team. And here comes Nebula again as her team provides some important offense, but Ricky Bobby there to meet her, pushes her out. Team trying to provide some offense, but this orange team is very good. There's Trash holding her back. Ricky Bobby up front, ready to catch her. And Nebula calls it off. Congratulations both teams on a fantastic bout.